So we're at about 8,300 feet or so, and making the decision to take the slightly lower route instead of the very exposed route over the top of Mount Ellen. Sorry to my sister, that is her name. We are missing her mountain. But all of my worst times hiking have come from wet and cold. Rain, cold weather, being wet, like near hypothermic, whatever. It's really not fun. It's so not fun. So anyway, we decided to not gamble on the chance that weather would be good tomorrow to do the peak and to just take a slightly lower route. Are you cold?
Uh-huh.
How cold?
Cold fingies.
Cold fingers. Even with your little sun gloves.
Uh-huh. Well, the ends stick out.
Oh.
And they're white.
You need some real gloves.
Uh-huh.
None of those budget fingerless ones.
Uh-huh.
So it's too bad, but honestly, this trail to me kind of feels like it's about the canyons and about the rocks. And, I mean, the Henry Mountains are a big part of that too. You know, these were formed as like a giant bubble of lava that I guess just kind of squished up here through the floor. So the Henrys definitely have their own unique geology to them, but in some ways they feel a little out of place for the rest of the hike. But maybe that's just me justifying the decision we're making. Either way, it is what it is. So onwards we go. Soon we'll be back in the canyons. So we've set up camp early because it is just full on snowing now. So definitely happy with the decision to not continue going up. So a little tarp nestled in the tree. Hopefully a little bit protected from the wind and stuff. And it's gonna be a cold night. No good. That's not really cold. Rain / snow is not the time to be hiking above tree line. So yeah, I think good. Literally all morning, all night, it's just been snowing, and now at lower elevations it's raining off and on constantly. Sometimes it was like big chunks of snow, like some powder. It hit the ground and like melt pretty instantly, but yeah, that along with high winds, I don't know, 25 mile per hour winds or something, maybe higher. Not really the time to be like in an alpine zone. So it is what it is. Anyway, I think now maybe we're on Tarantula Mesa, and we are soon to drop off of it into some more canyons. Soon we will be in Capitol Reef National Park. The Henry Mountains were the last mountain range in the United States to be explored, mapped, and named, at least as far as the lower 48 states are concerned. Naturally, native tribes like the Freeman, Anasazi, and Navajo certainly lived here and explored here long before anyone else came, but I think it's still a very interesting thing to consider. How remote and isolated and far out this area is, that it was the last to be put on a map. Even now, you feel it. To the south, to the west, and to the east. There's not much out here in the way of roads or people. There's just that little tiny town of Hanksville, surrounded by these impenetrable canyons, and that's it. It's also interesting to be hiking through a snowstorm here, when just yesterday, no more than 6 miles away, it was well over 90 degrees. And tomorrow should be no different either, as these desert environments have really incredible swings from day to day. It's certainly something to be careful of when packing your bag before you leave. That although you will experience temperatures as high as 110 or more, you will very likely also be experiencing temperatures well below freezing. Yeah, I guess the crux was right at the beginning. That's fun. Hard doing this after a night of rain. All night rain. So this is the descent off Tarantula Mesa. One little hard bit, and apparently if it's been raining for 2 days straight, it's all pretty hard. So we just came down that. Much steeper than it looks. The guidebook reads that there is only one safe way down off the mesa, at least anywhere near where our trail goes. And just looking at the sheer cliff walls surrounding us, it really is amazing. Just that one little spot is the way. There is no other option. The Hayduke Trail was originally named after a character from the book The Monkey Wrench Gang by Edward Abbey. I think if you're even sort of interested in this trail, you should definitely read The Monkey Wrench Gang and, of course, Desert Solitaire, both by Edward Abbey. Desert Solitaire kind of chronicles the author's life over the course of 2 seasons working at Arches National Park, while the Monkey Wrench Gang follows a group of, I want to say, eco-terrorists or saboteurs who aren't so happy with the development and the industrialization of the desert that they love. But it is George Washington Hayduke from the Monkey Wrench Gang that this trail gets its name. I don't know if this is true, but I also heard that originally, when the creators first thought up this trail, they wanted it to be a national scenic trail. That was maybe 20 or 30 years ago. But after finding out how much red tape was involved in doing such a thing, I think they decided to abandon that idea, which I think is kind of for the best. You know, a trail named after someone such as Hayduke, I think it's nice that it is so difficult, and it isn't just some highly maintained, highly marked, highly tread thing. You know, to do this hike, you really, really have to want it. And even if you really want it, it's still not guaranteed. You know, you gotta have the experience and you gotta know what you're doing, because there are so many different places and ways that you can find yourself in a lot of trouble out here. So those are the Henry Mountains, still just totally shrouded in cloud. So we were up there, I guess, yesterday and stuff. You can see more kind of like peeking over top of that, but cloud absolutely obscuring the tips. So it looks like they're getting a lot of snow right now. So even if we were to like want to wait out the storm, we would have had to have taken like multiple zeros in Hanksville just to do so, because it looks like it's probably just still snowing and snowing and snowing up there. But yeah, glad we're down here now. Storms in the desert can be a dangerous thing, and especially so when on foot. I'm sure we've all seen videos of cities where entire roads are turned to rivers. Just a few years ago, a clip went viral from a town I was living in where a Prius was being carried away down a neighborhood road by a flood. The desert is dry and the soil doesn't absorb water quickly. It doesn't sink into the earth, but instead it starts to run, and it finds small drainages, washes, and canyons to then follow. The fear, of course, for the hiker is that a storm tens of miles away that I don't even know exists could then flood out the canyon that I am hiking in, taking me with it. It's also extra fortunate that for the worst of the weather, we aren't in any extremely tight canyons. It's not as bad as it could be, in other words, and our timing works out pretty well in this instance. This next section through Capitol Reef, however, would be much more dangerous than where we are now. And likely, we'd be bypassing some really cool things if we were just one day faster and catching the storm at a much worse time. So in the end, I'll take it. Some bad weather in the mountains, traded for some amazing canyons to come. So that canyon is where we came from today. And then yesterday we were up in those mountains. It looks like they're getting some serious snow. So, pretty wild. For the next couple days, we'll be in the national park, exploring the canyons, cliffs, domes, and arches. The weather forecast is looking more favorable, which is great, as I think there's some places we'll be passing through that are so tight, I don't think I'd want to do them if a storm was looming.